Perfect. Well, Dr. Graham, thank you for joining me today. Um, and congratulations on the Twenhofel Medal awardee. Again, I couldn't imagine anybody or to anyone else who it would go to in terms of paleontology or sedimentology. So really congrats on that. Absolutely.
Thanks. Really appreciate it. Very kind of you. I feel just amazingly fortunate for this to have happened. It's nothing you could ever plan for. So it's great to see you. And I just want to apologize in advance. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so I sound a little nasally right now, but hopefully you and whoever watches this video can sort of bear with it.
Absolutely, and you sound great. So, if it's all right with you, I think we're just going to start dive into the questions. And
Let's do it.
perfect. So, first and foremost, what drew you into the field of geology?
Well, my story is actually a little bit different from most people who end up in geosciences, who generally discover the field when they're in college and have to take a requirement or something like that. So my uncle was a wildcatter in the Illinois Basin. And as a young kid, I hung out with him while he was drilling exploration wells. And I could just sense, even though I was very young, how excited he was about the opportunity to test his hypothesis with the drill bit. And that was really infectious. And then, kind of like a drug pusher, he started putting little shiny crystals and fossils in my hand, and I got hooked. So I've actually wanted to be a geologist ever since maybe the age of 8 or so.
Excellent, excellent. And as you know, you've grown as a geologist and a geoscience. Could you give me a description of how your career path has evolved and where you see it going today?
Sure. Well, again, thanks to my uncle, I went to Indiana University as an undergrad with the intent from day one to be a geology major. Again, kind of unusual. And my gravitation to sedimentary geology is pretty natural or organic because there's nothing but sedimentary geology in all of state of Indiana where I'm from. So, it was just a natural fit. So as I approached graduation, similar to you, I asked my advisor at IU, Lee Setner, where I should go to combine sedimentary geology with plate tectonics, which was still pretty much in its early days. And so he didn't hesitate for a second. He basically said, go work with Bill Dickinson at Stanford University. And so that's what, fortunately, I was able to do. And he was just the most amazing advisor I ever could have asked for. And really has served as a role model as an advisor for me. So I basically did a PhD thesis on tectonics and sedimentation, specifically with the history of the San Andreas Fault. And as I graduated, then I went off to become a research scientist at Exxon Production Research in Houston. Within a year or so, I got to missing the West Coast, and so I reactivated an offer that I had from Chevron, which at that time was headquartered in San Francisco. So I returned to the West Coast, and while I was at Chevron, I spent time in the exploration department and in the production department. So not through any planning or anything, but over the 5 years that I was in the industry, I was able to spend time in each of the three major upstream functions, research, exploration, and production. That essentially was my postdoc and really set the stage for me to do a lot of work in the subsurface as well as in the outcrop. So then something like totally unexpected happened, something could never predict, which was my advisor, Bill Dickinson, decided to leave Stanford and go to the University of Arizona. And that essentially vacated his chair. And Stanford reached out to me to ask if I'd be interested in being considered. Well, I didn't hesitate. I mean, that was one of those major decision points that happen in life. But in this case, there was just no doubt I was going to do that. So I accepted the position, and I've been at Stanford ever since, which was quite a long time now, and I've never looked back. It proved to be exactly the right thing for me to do.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that. Um,
Mhm.
and kind of along your journey, um, I'm sure you experienced these challenges throughout that. How many of those challenges ended up being valuable experiences that formed you as a geoscientist?
Well, I think challenges really are critical in anyone's life. I've been pretty lucky because I haven't experienced truly major setbacks, but I've certainly had my share of proposals rejected, or in some cases being denied access to some politically sensitive area overseas. Uh, but it's really, really important to learn from misfires and regroup. And then basically, as the saying goes, carpe diem, seize the day and take an opportunity when it arises. So that's basically how I've lived my life. So setbacks are really important. That you learn from them, you grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so about your job as an academic and beyond, what are your likes and dislikes with your job? What brings you fulfillment in your day to day?
I got to say, almost everything about my job I like. Um, and I really honestly can't believe I've gotten paid all these years to do geology. It's just a remarkable thing. It's the sort of thing that I think everyone would hope for in their lives. And I certainly hope that proves to be the case. Anybody who sees this video is considering pursuing a job in the earth sciences. Now, I got to say, administrative duties aren't sort of my fave. Um, but yeah, they're necessary, and so you do them. But you ask really what has motivated me most. There's no doubt about it. The science has been great, but really the most fulfilling part of the job as a professor is working with really talented and motivated students. That has been it for me.
And if you don't mind me asking, could you describe how your engagement with your students has perhaps changed throughout your career, or if it's stayed the same?
Again, I've been very fortunate to have had a number of advisees, now over 100 at Stanford for graduate school. I've, of course, worked with undergrads too, um, who have come in motivated and eager to do science, and also basically maintain a healthy work-life balance, which I think is absolutely critical. Um, and this group has been over the years essentially like a big extended family. Um, and so I've tried always to maintain a large advising group, a group that can learn from one another, because you learn as much in grad school from your fellow students as you do from faculty. And so that sort of big family environment has really allowed me to be close to my students, and also have them become close to one another, become friends, become coworkers, become collaborators. And that's something that I learned, I think, early on, as I sort of watched how student dynamics go, watch other faculty in my department to see who basically was really registering with their students versus situations that were maybe not always so healthy. So that's really been the guiding principle for me. And what I think has been pretty cool is that people who basically did their very first degrees with me, like within the first 2 years of being at Stanford, are friends with my current graduate students. I just think that's fantastic.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is like a little bit of a family. Um, well, now kind of moving to think a little bit beyond academics and your career, if that's all right. We're going to look at your insights on the geosciences sphere as a career choice for lots of people. And I'm curious, how do you feel the geoscience or earth sciences have changed over the course of your career? How do you see it evolving?
Well, I got to say, given my age, when I was in geology, it was like being in covered wagon days. So what I've seen over the expanse of my career, which is almost 50 years, has been profound. I mean, if you think about the changes in the world over the last 50 years, they've been profound too. And so, it's easy to call out some of the big changes that, basically have to do with technology and computational capability. Um, Now, particularly within the last decade, so as the use of big data, data analytics, and AI have trickled into earth sciences, things are changing at an ever increasing pace. And, I think that's going to continue. And all of those things have made our work so much easier and our reach really so much greater. We're able to perceive by wading through mounds of data that never would have been possible before, relationships that no one really would have been able to ever tease out. The other thing that's changed quite a lot is that um, these days it's very hard to do significant science without it being interdisciplinary, which in it itself promotes collaboration. So whereas when I was a graduate student, lots of people basically were operating like the Lone Ranger. Nowadays, you see these amazing collaborations of people from disciplines that never before would you have even thought had anything to do with one another, coming up with really interesting ideas. It's especially true in things like environmental geology. So those are the big changes, and those are going to be doing nothing but change, increase as we go forward. And then also, though this is out of my sphere, the fact that we're now doing geology off planet is pretty noteworthy as too. And so, one hopes if we're able to continue to pursue exploration off planet, whether it be Mars or the moon or other places, we're going to see things that we never would have dreamed of before.
And that's just exciting. So,
It is.
um,
It's gonna be your life. So yeah, it should be really exciting.
I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. Um, well, talking again kind of about evolving geosciences, there's a lot of big things happening, and I'm curious to ask, do you feel that the geosciences as a profession, earth sciences as a profession, do we have an obligation at outreach and communication with the general public? If so, what does that look like? What could we do better?
Yeah, without a doubt, yes. The answer is yes. And I think that's particularly true right now at this point in science, and especially our science, when we're experiencing a lot of funding cuts. And it often feels like the very credibility of science is under attack. Now, scientists, I think, have a tendency to stay focused on their area, not want to necessarily engage in outreach and public discourse. It's a generalization, but I think in many cases it's true. And just sort of keep their nose focused on the science that they're doing. And, of course, the science is so appealing that it's hard not to feel that way. But I think that we really have to do more than that, because the public really needs to know what we do, what we discover, because the broader public, in fact, whether directly or indirectly, is going to be affected by the things that we do. And this is certainly ever more true in issues of environment, climate, and earth science hazards and so forth. So yes, absolutely that needs to happen. And I think it's really up to us as earth scientists and sedimentary scientists in particular to push back on the proliferation of junk science that now, you can pull up with any quick click on the internet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and considering that, why should, students, undergrads, high school students, consider a career in the geosciences? And I'm going to make it a little bit more specific, consider sedimentology, careers in sedimentology. Um, what does that draw?
Well, the opportunity to discover things still is there, and it's a huge draw. But what I'd say is that our field is changing, just as society is changing, and there are new opportunities coming up all the time. I'll give you an example. So when I was a young professor here, no one even thought about something that we call geologic hydrogen. That is, basically free hydrogen trapped within the earth that can be recovered as the ultimate clean energy source. Now there are startups in this field happening all the time. So while it's easy to be discouraged when you see, for instance, regroupings or resizings of major oil companies, when you see universities retrenching, to think, maybe this is not the best place to be. But, always in challenging times, there are new opportunities arise, as I just indicated. And so I guess I'd urge anybody in, for instance, your position to try and see past those sort of signals of doom and gloom to see that inevitably there are going to be additional opportunities. And I'll just say, from my own experience, I can't imagine having had a career that's been more rewarding, more consistently gratifying and satisfying day to day than the one I'm in. And that's the thing that I guess I would hope for anybody who's looking for a field to go to. Follow your passion. There will be opportunities, there will be challenges, but where there are challenges, again, there are things to be made out of that as well. So I guess that would be my advice. And I'd say the opportunity to discover amazing things is still out there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Before we ended this, I was just curious if there was any last kind of words you wanted to leave for any aspiring, geosciences, or whatnot.
Well, I uttered the Latin phrase earlier, carpe diem, and that would be the watchword to live by. Seize the day. There are opportunities out there, and there's just a world of excitement that's available for people in earth sciences, and sedimentary geology in particular. I've had the amazing opportunity over my life to work almost everywhere in the world, and so there are just openings everywhere. There are opportunities everywhere. Look for them, grab them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, for your wisdom. And again, congratulations on this Twenhofel Medal Award. And thank you for your time.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much. It's been really fun getting to know you a little bit, and I would just say, seize the day.
Absolutely.